What's up, guys? Your agent Tyler Wehrung here with Keller Williams, and today we're going to talk to you guys about how to get started in real estate investing. We are super passionate about real estate investing and the real estate investing community. We have just under 20 doors and always looking for more. Big advocates of investing and try to help new people get started. So before we jump in here, a couple quick disclaimers. I am a licensed agent in Ohio, but this is not specific investment advice at all. I highly recommend you kind of do your own due diligence, really understand these strategies. It's very important that you go out and do some own research and validate what we're saying here. My goal here with this is to talk about, depending on where you fit kind of in a spectrum of time and money that we'll talk about here in a minute, which strategies work best for you in those types of scenarios. We've done a lot of research, talked to a lot of people about this, and want to share it with you. So that's my intent here. I'll also call out that this video is not going to talk you into real estate investing or the benefits of it. My assumption here is that you are already familiar, you really want to move forward with real estate investing, you're just looking for the how and the where to get started. So with that, let's jump in. Alright guys, so you'll see here, this graph is what we're going to show you, what we're going to talk to you about in terms of the time and money continuum, kind of this quadrant that we've built, because the big two roadblocks that we talk to people about investing are I don't have enough time or I don't have enough money. This really carves out four different quadrants of where you fit in. There are particular strategies that work best for those. So let's first talk about this graph and make sure you fully understand what we're trying to show here. So let's start with the green line. This is the money continuum, starting from not having a couple quarters to rub together all the way over to big money bags. So as you move from left to right on this continuum, the more money you have. The same thing with the time continuum. Starting at the bottom here from my calendar is so full that I can't fit anything else into it, all the way up to sipping martinis on the beach with little umbrellas in my drink. So yeah, really no time at all the way up to unlimited time. I can do whatever I want with my own time. And then different quadrants based on kind of where you fit in on that strategy. So obviously quadrant 3 is you don't have any time or money. And as you move, you can move around in this quadrant, but this will give you general ideas on concepts that work best depending on what your allocation of time and money are. So next I want to show kind of the typical journey that we see most people make. There's no one right way to get through these or how to navigate through them, other than you probably want to end up in Q1, the abundance of time and money. I think everyone would agree that's a good place to end up, and that should be your goal. But there's no one right path to this. If anyone tells you there's a one-size-fits-all approach to any type of investing, you might want to tread lightly and do some digger deeping. But we wanted to show, most people start here with a lot more time than money. They start out very little money, very lot of time, and slowly move across the spectrum in a downward to the right pattern. As they start to acquire more rentals, they build up some more cash. Most people on this journey also work a full-time W-2 as well and invest on the side. So as you build up quite a few investments, your time starts to go down until you get to a point here where you have more time or more money than time. And then this circle milestone really represents, I think, a point that a lot of us chase, and that's a point of financial freedom, where your assets now produce enough income that replace your full-time W-2 job, and you can now step away from that job and focus either full-time on real estate investing or take a mini retirement or do whatever the heck you want. I mean, that's the whole point of doing all this in the first place. Okay, so this represents the financial freedom, and then once you typically step away from that job, you'll see a huge spike up in the amount of time you have, and then obviously start to begin going upward and to the right in terms of wealth accumulation as well, and hopefully shoot off up to the upper right here in perpetuity. But this just kind of shows the normal kind of journey that we typically see. So now we're going to walk through each one of these quadrants and talk about specific strategies that we've seen work best for those in that particular area. starting with quadrant 3. So obviously this is probably the place you want to spend the least amount of time, but it is often where a lot of people start. So when you have no time and no money, you definitely want to start by saving. All right, you're not going to be doing any actually investing in this quadrant. You're going to focus on getting prepared or getting things ready to invest. So I'm not a big fan of saving your way or cutting expenses to wealth. But in this portion, you do have to save. Real estate's not an investment that you can have very little capital and do well in. Even you might be able to put very little money into deals, and that's the goal, but you want to have some liquid funds sitting aside in case things go wrong, because they always do, and you want to be very well capitalized. Scott Trench says it, but we always say you want to invest from a position of financial strength. In case something goes wrong, you're prepared and you can make accommodations. All right, so big focus on saving in this quadrant. Figure out creative ways to save money and come up with down payment funds or the funds available to get started. You're also going to want to focus a lot on learning in this phase. We're saying here that you have no time, so we need to find ways to take advantage of learning. There's a phrase out there called net time, N-E-T, no extra time, which means that you don't have to spend any extra time in your normal schedule, but you can still, find time to learn things. So personally, these are things like podcasts, audiobooks, reading regular books. And if you don't have time, find other things, where you could leverage. For example, when I get in the shower in the morning, I have a Bluetooth speaker that I listen to podcasts and audiobooks. When I cut the grass, I'm listening to it. I removed all music from my life except for on the weekends. But when I'm in the car, it's podcasts. You constantly have to be learning. If this is truly the path that you want to take and you don't have time, try to find it. I guarantee you there's some time in your day that you can find to learn. If you truly believe you don't have time, highly recommend you do an exercise called a time audit, where you actually log your time every day. You log it in increments of what you're spending your time on, and do that for a couple of days. I bet you can find some patterns that may not be conducive, and you may find some areas that you might be able to take advantage of. Okay? All right, and then lastly, you want to be networked. Okay, so even if you're not doing any activity, get involved in meetups, find people who are doing what you want to do, talk to them about how they're doing it, how you might be able to best do that. And then also you want to be talking with lenders. If you don't have any time and you don't foresee that changing, you want to find good property managers and have conversations with what type of assets they like and they don't like. You want to, they just say real estate is a team sport. So you can't do this by yourself. You're going to need lenders. You're going to need people to bounce ideas off of, people, to do projects for you. So contractors, this is where you want to do a lot of networking. But one piece of advice here, don't find somebody who's crushing it in your market and ask to pick their brain. That's a good way to not get a response back. Try to find some way to add value to them, and more times than not, they're going to be willing to give you time back if you're doing something that adds value to them. So just a quick nugget there, but guys, the general focus when you're in this quadrant of quadrant 3 is going to be sharpen the axe. This is from the famous quote from Abe Lincoln that says, "If I had 1 hour to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 45 minutes sharpening the axe, so that when the tree's there and it presents itself with a one swing or two, I have an axe that's prepared to slice down and knock the whole tree down." So this is basically preparing your mind, getting all your resources out there. So once a deal presents itself, once you have the time or the capital, you have a sharp axe and you can do some damage with it. So those are my thoughts on quadrant 3. And now we'll go to the more typical quadrant where a lot of people find themselves stuck on and not sure where to move forward. But in quadrant 2, you have more time than money. So let's talk about the strategies that work best for this scenario. The most powerful strategy that I recommend, if you can do it. Now, if you have a family of 4 and 3 dogs, you might not be in a position to do this, but if you're getting, you're younger starting out, this is very powerful. A house hack is basically where you buy a house and you let other people either live in the rooms, you rent the rooms out, or you can buy up to a 4-unit. You can buy either duplex, 3-plex, or a 4-unit under owner-occupied financing, which is basically just means you're going to live in it, but you get very good debt, you get very good financing when you're going to live in the property, versus if you're buying it as an investment, typically you don't get as good of financing. When I buy an investment property, I have to put 20-25% down, and I'm not getting the best mortgage rates that you guys are seeing advertised out there on the market. So a house hack benefits you in 2 ways. One, that very good financing, very low down payment. So if you don't have a lot of money, very low down payment option should be appealing to you. If it's FHA, if you're a first-time home buyer, you can get into these for 3.5%. And guys, if you can do that on a 2, 3, or 4 unit, you will be way ahead of the game. The second way that house hacking helps you is it also reduces your expenses. For most Americans, their biggest expense is their housing expense. And if you can reduce that by renting out your rooms and having someone else potentially pay for your entire mortgage or your entire rent, guys, you're going to be way ahead. You're going to be able to save a lot here to put into your war chest for future investments. I also want to call out all the previous things in Q3 still apply here. You still want to be learning, networking, and saving. And these kind of all build on each other. But house hacking is an extremely powerful strategy that I recommend if you can do it, if your lifestyle allows for it. The second strategy is the BRRRR model. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth here because there are great videos out there on the BRRRR model, but in general, it's an acronym that stands for you buy, you rehab, you rent the property out, then you refinance it, then you repeat. And the reason this is so powerful when you're in Quadrant 2, where you have little money, is when you do this, you're able to get all of your money back out on that refinance. That R here is for cash out refinance. Get all your money that you put into the deal back out of it, and then you're able to repeat. So the ability to recycle money when you don't have a lot of it is extremely powerful, and it's an extremely good way to get started and to build out a good sized portfolio. This is primarily how I still invest today. There's nothing better than having zero money into a deal that still pays you every month. It's a huge benefit, and I highly recommend you do some good research on this. The phrase was actually coined by Brandon Turner with Bigger Pockets, so if you throw that out on a Google search, I imagine you'll see all about it. And David Green with Bigger Pockets wrote a great book about BRRRR investing, but that's a super powerful strategy, especially when you're in Quadrant 2. And lastly, once you start moving down into the right here, getting closer to, you start having some money, but you still have a good amount of time, wholesaling or flipping are good ways to generate income to put into that war chest for future deals. So wholesaling takes a lot of time. If you're sending direct mail out or if you're cold calling, you need to have a lot of time here, and it's a good way to generate income to kind of push towards future investments. So those are the things you want to start thinking about when you're in this quadrant of more time than money. All right, so your general focus here in Q2 is reduce expenses, infinite returns, and generate income. And those are kind of exactly what we talked about here. House hack allows you to get started with very low expenses. BRRRR is infinite returns or very close to it. And don't feel bad if you do one of these and you have to leave a couple thousand into a deal. That's still better than a 20% down payment. And your returns, your cash on cash return is going to be through the roof if you have very little money into a deal. So infinite returns is the goal, but don't get upset if you're not there. And then you start thinking about how you can generate additional income in terms of wholesaling or flipping or some sort of side hustle to accelerate your options to invest. Okay, so those are the focus in Q2. All right, so let's look at Quadrant 4, where you have more time than money. These are people who make a very good income, but it does take all their time. They can't really afford to focus time elsewhere because their dollar per hour activities at their normal W-2 job, it just generates so much more income that it wouldn't make sense for them. So here are a couple options when you find yourself in this position. The first is a turnkey. Now, turnkey investing is basically where another company finds a deal off market, they fix it up, get it rent ready, they put a renter in there and then continue to manage it for you. So you buy it and they continue to manage it. So they kind of do all the work to get it ready and you buy it and they manage it for you. So now with turnkey, you're going to have lower returns, but that's okay because you make so much money during your regular job that you can afford to offset your returns by at least getting in the game and getting a property and taking advantage of the other wealth building powers of real estate. So you're not going to get the best deal and you're not going to get the best cash on cash returns, but if you buy an appreciating market, you can still do very well with turnkeys. Okay, syndications and partnerships. Now, depending on the level of wealth that you have, these are great options. Syndications typically require a high net worth, but it's basically where someone else goes out and finds a very large deal, like a 100-unit multifamily, like they're paying $10 to $15 million for. Well, they put it under contract and then pool money or syndicate money together from multiple investors that will allow them to buy it. Okay, so if they collect 50,000 from 50 people, they have enough money to buy a very large asset, and then all those people that put in on that get the monthly returns. They get a piece of the depreciation, they get a piece of the appreciation. So you kind of are buying a small piece of a large asset. That's what syndications are in a nutshell, and you can invest in them if you meet certain wealth criteria or being kind of in the deal in some sort of way. So do some more research there, but that's an option. And then partnerships are similar, but maybe on a smaller scale, where someone in Q2 brings you a good deal, maybe a flip, you bring the money for it, and then you guys will be 50-50 partners in the outcome. Okay, so that's just an option there to partner with other people and put your money to work, but you not having to do much of the work yourself. And lastly, private lending. So this is similar to partnerships where you're putting up the money for a deal, but the difference between a partnership and private lending is when you're lending the money, you're just getting paid back like the bank does. You're getting, typically it's interest only, and you may make some fees on the money, but you're not involved in the deal. When you're in a partnership, you actually hold equity in the property, so depending on how well the project goes, you have a piece of that revenue or that profit. Okay, so those are the two differences there. But you can, if you have well networked and you find good flippers in your area, I'm sure they would love to have a conversation around you lending them money and just paying them back once the deal closes. So very popular strategy. But in Q4, what your general focus is leveraging other people's time and effort. You don't have the time, but you have the money, so leverage it out. Let other people do the hard work, the heavy lifting, and it's worth it to get a smaller return on that money when you're not doing any of the work at all, okay? So those are the things to think through in Quadrant 4. And lastly, Quadrant 1, which, like I said before, is the goal, is kind of where we're all striving to get to, where you have money and time freedom. So the things you want to do in Quadrant 1, assuming that you still want to invest in real estate, is you have the freedom to choose your niche and strategy. And so, in the other quadrants, your strategy and tactics are based on your situation. Where in Quadrant 1, you have all the cards on the table, and the world is your oyster. You get to pick what strategy you want to do rather than have the situation dictate your path forward. So the thing here is that you want to decide on a strategy, whatever it is. You get to pick whatever you want and then execute against it. A lot of people get to this point and say, well, I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to do multifamily or single family? Do I want to fix and flip? Do I want to buy and hold? The thing here is they all work. You just need to pick one and stick to it and execute against it. You'll hear a lot of people say that indecision is often worse than a bad decision. So it's like not making the wrong decision. If you pick multifamily and single family does better, that's typically not as bad as not deciding at all and never getting started. So if you are in that position, do some good research, spend some time, because it is an important decision, but don't sit on it for years and not ever decide what you want to do. The important thing is that you actually make a decision and start to execute. And then you want to also start to think about high quality, long-term assets. In some of these other quadrants, and when you're getting started, sometimes your assets that you can buy are dependent on your situation. If you have $10,000 to invest, you're probably limited to some neighborhoods that you might not want to hold long term, or some assets that might not be as high of a quality. So when you're in this position and you have kind of all the cards on the table, start to think about, what things would I like to hold for 10, 20, 30 years? What kind of things would be cool to pass on to my kids? And so it changes that mindset from what can I afford to what do I want to hold long term. So start to think about that. And then the other option here is, if you're in this position, you really don't have to do anything. You can take a mini retirement. You can, pay off your loans and, just be happy with the income that you've built so far and enjoy it. But just like to throw out all the options to consider if you made yourself in this category. So that's kind of the general focus here, is to live life on your terms. And hopefully throughout the journey, you kind of know what the end looks like. So when you get there, you're able to enjoy it and design a lifestyle around it. So that's my thoughts on kind of how to find the right strategy for where you are on this continuum and where you fit within this quadrant. So just ask yourself the question when we go back and look at the quadrants of where do I fit, and what strategies might be best for me. So guys, I hope this was helpful. If you have other thoughts or you disagree on a particular strategy or you have questions about different things or how to tactically move forward with a particular strategy, I would love to help. I would love to talk to you about your decision-making process there. But if this was helpful at all, I'd appreciate a smash on the like button, a share with somebody who might be in a particular scenario where they're not sure how to move forward, and always a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. But with that, guys, I'm Tyler Wehrung. We'll catch you next time.